I just stopped and restarted the recording. I now call to order the regular Board of Trustees meeting scheduled for August 18th, 2020, being held electronically pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Chamberlain.
Here.
Trustee Clayton.
Here.
Trustee Goldstein.
Here.
Trustee Haber.
Here.
Trustee Hollander.
Here.
Trustee Jamerson.
Here.
President Norris.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. First item of business is approval of minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting from August 4th, 2020. Do I have a motion for approval?
I have a minor change to add as well.
Okay. What's the change, Daphne?
Under roads and land use, Trustee Hollander requested a minor change, saying Trustee Hollander requested Mayor Norris to talk with Davey rather than Mayor Norris talked to Davey.
Okay. With that change in place, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
I'll take that as a second from Trustee Chamberlain. She was slightly behind. Any further changes? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain.
Aye.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
All right, thank you. The village ecologist does not have a report this evening. Treasurer's report. You saw the email that we received from Hal Roseth. In addition, there is a report from the Finance Committee. Trustee Clayton, if you would care to comment.
Okay, there's a cover memo which our finance director prepared to kind of summarize where the Finance Committee is at, and then after that is a kind of a spreadsheet that I'll walk you through quickly to talk about where we are from the standpoint of an updated forecast. With regard to the memo, I think this pretty much summarizes where we've been and the kinds of conversations that we've had over several months now. The structural operating deficit materialized because of the loss of a significant sales taxpayer. COVID-19 has exacerbated that situation, and we anticipate even more impact from COVID-19, which is now contained in the forecast. So these challenges basically amplify the structural deficit that we need to work to resolve. We've looked at several different alternatives as to how to deal with the deficits going forward, and our conclusion is that an increase in the police tax for 2021 that's 50% higher than the tax this year is the appropriate short-term response to the situation. And the spreadsheet kind of takes you through what all that means. I think the important thing to note is in that third to the last paragraph, while the 50% sounds like a big number, at this point, we get on an average house in Riverwoods, as we've discussed in the past, the village's portion of that tax bill is $324. So we're talking about basically a $162 increase to the average resident. So it should be hopefully something that is obtainable for our residents without undue. Looking at the spreadsheet, the forecast on the top line is the one that you may be familiar with from April 15th. And then we've made several adjustments to that forecast now. One is because of the establishment of the capital fund, we have to have apples to apples. So we made a transfer of the campus expense. That doesn't affect anything with regard to the deficit. It's just where the costs are binned. What we've done with regard to sales taxes is that we had reduced the sales tax receipts for 2020 by 50%. And now, given the duration of the pandemic, impacts that we're beginning to see in the history, we're now reducing that by another 25%. So that takes another $182,500 off of the forecast for this year. And we've also now carried over the pandemic effect into 2021 with a sales tax reduction of 25%. So basically what we're saying now is that we hope that the effects of the pandemic are done by the end of 2021, and we have now at least anticipated a reduction in sales tax for next year, which is less than the one we're anticipating for this year. We've reduced the income tax receipts based on information from the IML that it looks like a 10% reduction from our budget. So that's the $38,000 reduction. We've undertaken a program with the Holiday Inn. So that reduces our receipts by $10,000. And then based on the history that we've seen so far, it looks like our police revenue, except for the police tax itself, is down significantly. So we've reduced our estimate of the police revenue by $95,000. And under the assumption that we implement a municipal gasoline tax this year with the sole taxpayer that we have, and that comes on in January 1st, 2022, we get a small bump this year and a slightly higher bump next year. That takes us to an adjusted net general fund deficit projection of $885,024. That goes down next year to $472,914 by virtue of the fact that we're recovering from the pandemic. And then in 2022, the deficits that you see projected there are basically due to the structural deficit of the loss of our sales tax revenue, among other things, and the fact that our police expenses are going up faster than our police taxes. So if we were to implement the 50% increase in the police tax, that would represent a little less than $300,000 each year going forward. So if you look down there where it says annual general fund forecast, that basically says that we are offsetting much of the impact of in the short term, and that we're coming to a break-even position in 2022, but then the deficits begin to reoccur and start to grow again. And then the bottom line shows the cumulative deficit over time of $1,634,000. So basically, what we're saying here is that in the short run, we can kind of solidify the financial base of the village with this tax increase. And that, but in the future, if things occur the way we think they're going to occur to the best of our forecasting ability at this point, it looks like we may have to revisit the situation after 2022, but at least in the short run, this gives us a fix. So any questions? Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Mike, for 2020, in addition to the transfer of the campus expense, should there be a transfer of the signage expense? Isn't that kind of an outlier as well? That's not generally going to be recurring, and isn't that like an excess of $100 and some thousand?
I think that's right, but I thought that we had taken that out of the number, the top line number already. If not, then the deficit for this year is $125,000 higher. That's a good point.
Yeah, we did talk about taking it obviously, but I don't know if that's represented correctly here or not.
Yeah, we'll have, Mike, I'll have to look into that.
Okay.
So at least it might be a little better, just like the police may do a little better this year, but we think we've got to be pretty candid that it's not going to look real good anytime soon. Are there any other questions?
I guess for saving my pride here, I guess we'll call that a risk reserve for now.
Any other questions from the board? All right then, hearing none, Director of Community Services report.
Okay, as of today, we finished up all the backlog of permits. We got everything issued. We are up to date. And by Friday, I will have all the backlog of inspections, I think, finished. Vivian's gone through the envelopes. We pulled out a bunch of stuff that wasn't, for some reason, closed out from late 18 and a couple of things in 19. So we're catching all that stuff up. So hopefully by the end of the week, we should be all caught up and back on even ground again. That's about it for now.
Any questions for the Director of Community Services? All right, whoops, skipped over the engineer. How can I miss Pat? Engineer's report.
On my screen, my cube is above Russell, so I don't know what happened, but I have no report.
Okay, ZBA, no report. Wait a minute, we did. I'm trying to remember.
That was
when
in
did we meet?
July, but we've already had a meeting. I don't think there is a report.
I didn't think so. I thought we already had that. Plan Commission report. Everybody sees our new chairperson here. So everybody can wave at Lori and say hi. Lori, do you have anything to tell us except you're on board and running things now?
Thank you for your confidence in me. We are considering the group home definitions, and I believe that's what we will discuss at our September meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong, other Bruce?
No, that's right.
Any questions for the Plan Commission? All right, police report.
A few things. Can you turn? Okay, thanks. We had a storm, as everybody may recall, on August 10th. We didn't have any injuries, but we did have trees down at Riverwoods Road in Juneberry, which officers cleared, and a tree down on a house on Thorn Meadow with no injuries, and a tree down on Farner Court with no injuries. 3 cars were entered overnight on Saturday, August the 15th into Sunday morning overnight, and a 4th vehicle was stolen on Long Cove Court in the Thorngate subdivision. All the vehicles were left unlocked, and the burglars located a garage door opener inside a vehicle parked in a driveway and used it to open the garage. They were then able to start the car and drive away with it because the fob had been left inside. Other cars in the area, we believe, through video footage, were also approached, but the suspects were not able to get in because those cars were locked. So it's very important for people to keep their cars locked and not to leave valuables in their cars, and to certainly not leave their key fobs inside their cars. But by comparison to other towns around us, I think our residents are doing a good job of locking their cars. This is the first one we've had in a long time where our neighbors have been getting them pretty regularly. And then, as many of you may have heard, the car that was stolen was a Porsche that the Chicago police tried to stop, and he rammed the driver rammed the Chicago police car trying to get away, hit a couple other cars, and eventually couldn't go any further. And 5 juveniles were taken into custody by the Chicago Police Department, and we had a detective over there getting some information, and we'll try and do some further investigation as far as DNA and see if we can match them up to our car burglaries. The Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists conducted a DUI survey among police departments. Of the 431 Illinois departments surveyed, Riverwoods ranked 73rd. So for a small department, we were pretty high. That's in total DUI. And we were actually 5th in the average DUI arrest per officer. Most police departments have certain officers that excel at arresting drunk drivers, and we're no different. We have 2 officers, Sergeant George Futzenreuter and Detective William Kirby, who excel at arresting drunk drivers, and they accounted for most of our arrests. And that's all I have.
Okay, anybody have anything for the chief? Okay, information items. One, we had the nature walk on Saturday. It was a little, on the 8th, it was a little warmer than any of us expected. We had a pretty good turnout. We expected one group, we had two. I included a couple of quick pictures from it. We got positive feedback. It was surprising how much people did learn, people that you thought may have known something. We had several new residents, which I think was also good. So I think in general, it was a very good outing. Now to go on to the more interesting topic, which I think may cause a little more discussion, which is the bicycle path sidewalk on Deerfield Road. Trustee Habers brought up a couple of times, which prompted me to ask Pat to have a survey done of the actual condition. I still don't have a price for repairs, although part of that is we've got to determine what degree of repairs, if any, we would want to make. I have talked with Trustee Hollander, and what I would recommend, and I think Henry is in agreement so far, is that we look also at the Riverwoods Road path. Just because one path is in bad shape doesn't mean we should ignore the others, and come up with a formulated plan of what we want to do and advise what the cost of any repairs and or whatever maintenance would be decided for a recommendation to the board, and what we believe is best and cost effective. Pat, does that sound like a fair description of what we had talked about as well? And Henry, don't let me put too many words in your mouth either, but Pat, if you would.
It does, and I have requested a paving contractor to get me a quote to at least address the handful of trip hazards that we identified on Deerfield Road. I'll pass that along when I get it from him.
So at this point, we don't know what actual cost there would be, so I don't think there's anything for the board to address. I do know that Trustee Clayton also went out and looked at the path and had some significant questions about it. Looking at the report from Pat's memo, clearly there are some definite areas that have to be addressed one way or the other. I do think we have to decide what is the best course, given we may be having this replaced in 4 years. Maybe the best course is to some way close it off, tear it up or whatever, rather than pouring more money in just to take it out. Or maybe the best course is repairing it sufficiently to be adequate. Again, I'm not trying to say what it is. It's just clear that we need to come up with a plan of action, how to address this, and I believe the other sidewalks / bike paths that we have. Along those same lines, added to that is I've received another request from Thorngate to put in crosswalks on Saunders at the area about where the park is. I can't think of the street into Parkway North. It's probably Parkway North Drive. Pat has looked at that before and he'll get a cost figure on it. The Deerfield Road plan does have a bike path coming down instead of just a hard shoulder for that. But I think given what I heard was the probable expense of that, I think that should also be part of a plan because it is not an inexpensive item. And I think that needs to be thought out and planned, would it be occurring. So yes, Cheryl?
I agree that we need to have a plan, and I wanted to make a few comments about that. I think when Trustee Haber had initially commented that he had walked the path and would we look at that, I also had requested that we look at Riverwoods Road the Riverwoods Road path in particular, because I think that's probably the one that folks have always used the most, both before COVID and now. And I think it's really important for us to not do things piecemeal, but to have an overall plan. We actually do have a bike path plan that we hired a professional to do, and we prioritize path, we prioritize construction, and we prioritized obtaining grants. And I think that we should do that again. And it should include all the paths. We have some safety paths. We have sections of actual bike path. And then over on Saunders, that's actually a snow ledge. But people are using it as a path. So I think we need to make some evaluation there. The plan also had priority as far as where we wanted to construct next, so that we were aware of where we might want to go if we wanted to have a bike path as in 8 feet, so that we knew what kind of grants might or might not be available. So I would like us to do that as well. But right now we're looking at maintenance, but I think that needs to have prioritization and schedule as well. I don't know that we have recently asked the question, what is our minimum standards? Do we want it to include the ADA compliance issues that were identified in this study? Is the standard the same for a bike path as it is for a safety path? What about the snow ledge part? We have to consider liability in there. And then I think we need to prioritize maintenance also based on path use. I think it's important to consider, obviously, if there is a new path coming in, but if that's going to get delayed, then we want to look at it in a different way. Do we want to devise a temporary plan because people are using the paths more often right now, but that may or may not revert to former path usage? And should this maintenance schedule also include snow removal? And if so, how often and when? Let's see. And so I think we should look at all those things, but maintenance first, let's look at that first. But I completely agree that I would love to see Trustee Hollinger get together with the mayor and our village engineer and come up with an overall recommendation for us, maybe one temporary and one more permanent.
Well, it's been some time since we prepared what we had before, and I don't remember it being quite as detailed as some of what you said, but I think the new one should be that detailed, especially having just listened to Trustee Clayton talk about the money we have or don't have, and none of the expenses that we're talking about have been programmed in there. So we need to either A, make cuts, or B, find more money if we're doing these things. Certainly, maintenance for safety is an important issue in all of those things, and I think that's part of what we do need to look at. Also, the function of perhaps we want to pay for engineering ahead of time to qualify more easily for more grants. That's something that can be looked at too, because a great number of these grants have to be shovel ready, which means engineering done. So maybe we need to look at it and say that would be a good investment to get these things done sooner. But that should all go into this report, I think, as to what we should do and why we should do it. And then the board can take it and probably say, Henry, what a great job you did. So Henry, I see you're unmuted. Have you been wanting to say something? And then Mr. Clayton.
Well, you may have hit one of my observations. I just had a couple observations. One is we just had a report from the finance indicating that we are in a deficit for the future. I have a hard time looking to spend a significant amount of money when it isn't a requirement to have a path. They may be there, but we have no obligation to have them. I think we ought to look into it. I specifically think we ought to look into the idea of doing the engineering work just on the off chance that we could get a grant of some type. So it's worth the time maybe to look into it, but I do not want to forget the fact that we are looking to spend more money without any offset. And I have a real hard time when all you see are negative figures looking for a way to spend more money. So I just want to put that out there.
Well, I agree, Henry. That's what I was trying to point out, that there was a time we had a lot of extra money every year. Right now we don't. So we need to make hard decisions, think our way through this, and make sure we do get the right priorities. Trustee Clayton, I think you were wanting to say something.
Yeah, I guess as a planner, I obviously believe strongly that we ought to have a comprehensive plan and we ought to move forward with a comprehensive plan, which contains many of the things that Trustee Chamberlain talked about. However, and I would argue that the path that we have, which is being used more frequently than it had out along Deerfield Road than it had been in the past, is a concern right at the moment that needs to be addressed while we're going through this comprehensive planning process. And I disagree with Trustee Hollander with regard to the money. This is a capital issue primarily, and maintenance of capital assets, and it's an amenity for the village issue. Is important to our branding. And I think that the ability to travel by means other than automobile throughout the village is something very fundamental to village life. And I would like to accelerate the process of getting some cost information so that we can determine what alternatives we have with regard to the path on Deerfield Road without complicating this for several months going forward, and then making a decision with regard to that pathway where, as the mayor said, we either shut it down or we do something to make it more usable than it is now. I had traveled that path many times on my bicycle, and I have to tell you that walking it is a much different experience than traveling on your bike. And at this particular point, unless you're going to put up barriers on the ends of the path, I think it's important that we move the engineering cost estimate forward with regard to whatever we need to do on the Deerfield Road path.
Well, Mike, that is happening now. I can assure you, as far as I'm concerned, something has to be done to address the Deerfield Road path. I'm not saying what, but something needs to be done one way or the other. So
And
as
are
far
we
as the
also
rest of
doing
it,
that for the Riverwoods Road path? Because it has some of the same issues that the Deerfield Road path has.
Cheryl, we're going to look at it. I'm only saying that I have a report right now, and that was prompted by direct issues, but we will be looking at the other, but we're talking primarily about the one that we've got a report that shows us significant problems.
Well, except that I asked for the same thing for Riverwoods Road at the same time the request was made for Deerfield. I just want to make that
Cheryl,
clear.
it isn't done yet one way or the other.
I missed
Problems
that.
going forward.
And we will, I will have at the next board meeting, I should have a quote for the repairs to both paths. We'll get out, we'll inspect it. And I'll get that same quote for the 25th.
So again, we will be taking something to make sure that safety requirements are met. But past that, exactly what that means, it may be decommissioning both paths. I won't say that that might not be the answer that's recommended given cost, expenses versus the future, but let's get it on the table and put it in a form that I think is a little less ephemeral and a little more certain of what we're saying, yes or no, with some real numbers. I think everybody'd say if we could fix the path to perfect condition for $100, we'd do it. And if it cost $1 million, we'd probably say, gee, that's not a good idea. And I know the cost is somewhere in between. And I want to know what it is before I'm asking you to vote on something. So, but the one thing that can't happen is that it be ignored. Yes, Trustee Haber.
I mean, as you know, I've been pushing this issue for months and months and months. And I'm happy to see that finally this is being taken seriously. Based upon the report that we've received from Gawalt, suggests that there are several sections of the path that are in really poor condition and other sections of the path that are in fair condition. I'm not sure exactly from an engineering standpoint what it means when it says 100% failure rate, but that report indicates that 100% failure rate in multiple sections kind of gets me nervous. Maybe we can get an understanding as to what that exactly means from Pat. But I concur with Trustee Clayton that this is not a matter of being patient any longer. This has to be addressed yesterday. and it has to be addressed before Riverwoods Road. It has to be addressed immediately. I've been pushing this for forever, and everyone has kind of been, taken aback, not really on board. Now it seems like, there's more of a consensus, but I don't think we have the ability to just sit back and do nothing now that we have a report that says that this is a serious situation. So I'd like to accelerate it as much as possible to get this taken care of. If it means digging it up and closing it, so be it. I don't think that's the appropriate resolution because I think it is an amenity of the village that should be maintained. But I think it needs to be accelerated.
And Mike, that I was agreeing with you. That's what I was saying as well, that path for sure, I can say that. Trustee Chamberlain, we need to get the information on Riverwoods as well. I don't mean to say we can ignore that. I can only deal with what's here right now. I asked Pat after the last meeting to go get it on Deerfield. That's why we have that one. So we'll have more information. But yes, whether it's closing it completely or repairing it in some way, they both need to be addressed. Rick, you've got your hand up, it looks like.
Yes. So I agree with what everybody's been saying. I do think we need to address the situation, but I would like to make a request that when Pat does his estimates for repairs, that he also gives us an estimate to dig it up and put seed back down.
That's part of what I have asked for as well.
I'm not sure that's the right answer for this situation, but I think we need to make a good decision. And I guess we've been told by the county that Deerfield Road was going to happen in 2021 and then 2022, and now they're going to start utilities in 2023 with construction in 2024. We're not sure if that's going to happen or not. I hate to spend good money to fix the path if it's going to get torn up, but I agree with the rest of the trustees. I mean, this is an issue and we need to take care of it, but I would like to know what the cost is to completely decommission it. You can't just put barricades up at either end because people are going to go around them. So we basically have to dig the path up to decommission it.
John?
You're muted, John.
John? You're muted, John.
Okay, I'm saying yes, Rick, that's the whole point. We need to get you a range. The committee can make a recommendation, but there should be a range of costs that the board can look at to make what they believe is the most fiscally prudent as well as safe, good for the village through amenities or whatever decision. There's a whole lot of factors, but we can't ignore money or the fact that something is going in there either. It's just, we need to put these in front of you. It's unfortunate that it took so long to get there. I think part of it is we all thought this was going to be replaced sooner. I know that's part of what I was thinking. So yes, it needs to be done. It needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. Henry?
I have a question for Bruce Huvard. Bruce, would it be incorrect for me to say that because we've been advised that there are areas of the path that are potentially dangerous, that as a village, do we have an obligation either to repair it or close the path?
Yes.
So
So I think that simplifies. I think that simplifies things. That whatever the number is going to be from our engineer that says the path is going to be X dollars, the choice really is to spend the money or close the path.
Well, and I would also say that not only do we have a legal responsibility, but we have a moral responsibility to our citizens as well. Even if we could go under tort immunity and say that we have no obligation, I think everybody here would say we should make sure those paths are safe for people to use. So we will come up with that. And again, we'll give you some information to try and have something other, because everybody's been right so far. I can't say anybody's wrong. So we're trying to work on that.
I did, if I can just jump in 1 second. I did go back, just 2 years ago, the Illinois Supreme Court ruled a case that's now become leading precedent about the obligation to consider repairs to a defective sidewalk. I know when it first came out, the Illinois Municipal League put out a bunch of bulletins. We talked about it at the time. So I went back to reread it, and it's pretty clear that in Illinois, we have a duty to maintain property. The common law duty is summarized as to exercise ordinary care to maintain its property, that's the village property, in a reasonably safe condition for the use and the exercise of ordinary care of people whom the entity intended and permitted to use the property in a manner in which and at such times as it was reasonably foreseeable that it would be used. Now, it says the village wouldn't be liable unless it's proven that it had actual or constructive notice of the existence of such a condition that is not reasonably safe. It's hard for me to say that we don't have that knowledge at this point. The immunities that are elsewhere described in this decision that sometimes apply to public bodies would only apply, is the way the Supreme Court read it, in a fairly narrow circumstance where we set a budget, for example, to make repairs. We put Russ Craley in charge of them. He had to make certain policy decisions, priority decisions about what to go to first, and did the best he could. In that case, we could have some limited immunity because that's a policy decision about how to go after the problem. But the court went out of its way to say, but the public body just can't decide not to take care of the problem and call that an exercise of policy. That's not an adequate policy when it has property that can be used by people. So I think that given where we are in the questions we've had, we have a duty to make sure it's safe. We have probably pretty good knowledge at this point that there's some parts of it need some work. And so I would encourage the board to look on it as we have to do something, a duty to fix it or make it safe or keep people from getting harmed.
And again, I don't think we'd want to try to hide behind governmental immunity anyway. I think we all want to make sure it's safe for our residents to use. I think that's been emphasized over and over. So let's move on. I think we've covered this in general. Next item hopefully will not be as controversial. I discovered that food trucks have been coming into Thorngate in the last few weeks. The chief didn't have any notice. I didn't have any notice. So the question is, do we care? And certainly they need to be maintaining health standards, but we don't get into that normally. That would be the county health department, since we don't have our own health department. We would be concerned if they were blocking streets or having a problem with that. But the chief says that he thinks that we could deal with that on the basis of if they start going places and causing problems, we'll get calls and then we can address it. So let me ask what the board's feeling is. I'm not sure that we want to be adding extra burdens or impediments on people who are trying to make something work, especially during the COVID pandemic. Is there anybody that would seriously like to see us regulating it? Okay, Rick, I'm not saying that's what you said, but.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily for regulating food trucks. I'm just curious, they're just pulling in and parking on the side of the road and then people are walking up and buying stuff?
They apparently have made arrangements with the homeowners association, and it's more a matter, I think, that you order ahead of time and they would bring things out. So it's not food truck in the absolute sense, but that's how it's being advertised. So there are commercial vehicles coming on to private streets or residential streets and selling food. Yeah, Eric?
I'm personally, I personally wouldn't want food trucks on my street or in my neighborhood. However, if the board decides they do want to regulate it, or I guess not regulate it, I would say they at least have to register with the village so we know who's coming in and who's coming out. Very similar to what I believe they do in other cities. I know Chicago has an annual fee, but it sounds like people are just sort of ordering their food ahead and they're coming and dropping off and then hopefully getting some other people along the way. But yeah, I personally wouldn't like to see food trucks in my neighborhood.
Okay, anybody else have any comments on it? So it doesn't sound like anybody's too anxious about it. If it gets comes to be a problem, we'll bring it up. And Eric, if you see on your street, call the chief. He'll take care of it. He's giving me a look right now, but in any event, it sounds like it's a solution in search of a problem more than anything else.
The only thing, John, I would say is that and to Eric's point, I think there's a difference between a public street and a private street. And I don't want to get into that discussion again, but I'm just saying that.
Well, that's right. Eric's is a public street.
but Eric is on a public street. And I think it's different than a private street where your homeowners association, right, John, can prohibit them from being on your streets. They can do that internally if your residents are not happy with it. Eric's residents can't do that unless they come to the board and the board does something
True.
about it. So it's a totally different situation.
You're right. You made a good distinction, Rick. But again, at this point, there doesn't seem to be a problem that we really need to be solving. So Bruce has already pulled, as in Bruce Huvard, Evanston's things. We'll look at it. So we'll have some ordinance regulations we can put in place. But I assure you, the last thing I want to do is put some regulations in place that we're not really going to be monitoring or enforcing either, because I think that's counterproductive. So with that, the video we've already talked about for the cars. Moving on then, are there any visitors wishing to address the board for things that aren't on the agenda? No emails. We don't have any emails, so I assume not. I see Mr. Abbott, and he and I talked about the one action item, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. Approval of bills. Do I have a motion for the approval of bills?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Are there any questions that haven't already been presented to staff? I know Cheryl and Mr. Clayton had a couple that I believe, I hope have been satisfied. I know Susie talked with them. All right, hearing none, then may I have a roll call for the approval of bills.
Trustee Chamberlain.
Aye.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollinger.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Then moving on to action items, there's no new business. The old business is the second reading and possible adoption of an ordinance amending the Riverwoods Village Code by the addition of section 3-1-12, imposing a municipal retail motor fuel tax. Council, you want to comment on that?
I didn't make substantive changes from the first draft. I reorganized to put some of the findings and authority for the ordinance in section 1, and basically just tidied up. There were some defined terms that I moved around a little bit. There was in one place a requirement that we have a certain kind of report, and I'm not sure that getting that report from the Illinois Department of Revenue is necessary for what we need. So I made it something that the village could require, but it's not obligated to. I'm just trying to make it as workable as I could going forward. I did want to point out that I didn't change, and I left in that the effective date of the ordinance, or the tax rather, would be January 1, 2021, because I thought we would give ourselves a chance to come up with a packet of information. There are forms that have to be devised. We can look at other communities that have them, but we need somebody in this capable of getting the forms on a monthly basis, looking at them, seeing what they are. So I suggested to the mayor that maybe we have a period of time during the fall to sort of put this together, start seeing how they would work before we formally have the tax collected starting in January. There's no magic to that, but obviously we need some lead time in order to come up with the right reporting and forms. We did talk to the developer with for the Thornton's fuel station, and the Thornton's representative was on the Zoom call with us. And as the mayor said, they have no objection to the village having a tax as long as we stay consistent with Buffalo Grove, which has a gas station across the street. They don't want to be at a disadvantage. And the Buffalo Grove tax is 2 cents a gallon as well. So the proposal one here is 2 cents a gallon.
So any questions or comments from the board members? Okay, as I noted, I had talked to Mr. Abbott, and while I could always relate the conversation to you, I think since he's here, it would probably be more appropriate to let him make any comments that he wishes to make at this time. Anil?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, Mr. Mayor and all the trustees. Good evening. My name is Anil Abbott, and I'm running this gas station in Riverwoods like almost 14 years now. And I spoke to Mr. Mayor and regarding for the city tax for 2 cents per gallon. So right now is like used to be our gas volume is 170,000-80,000 gallon. After the Woodman came, our go 35% down. And I'm just want to let you know that what happened. The Woodman is going to open another gas station right cross street. Why? But he's opening second one right cross street next to the Chase Bank. So it's already construction done, and I saw this already tank. So I'm already down for 35%. And also my rent, they already increased for now 18,600 per month. And I'm very hardly surviving because it's hard for me to $600-700 make per day for the gas station in C-store. Is a very great location, no doubt. But after the Woodman and competitions, and Woodman is opening second one, and then the third is Thornton is coming pretty soon. I'm not compared with this big giant people. I'm a very small gas station owner, and they don't have any problem for the 2 cents per gallon Thornton, and Thornton is bought by BP now. It's a very giant company. So I'm a resident of your Riverwoods, and I'm really helping to whatever we can to our neighbors, and then listen to all the time with them, giving very good customer service to them. But to me is I need you guys help. I can't survive it. Now it's like if I pay 25,000, if I have 110,000 gallon gas now, so if I'm paying $25,000 more to the city tax, and I don't think so I can survive. The rent, they go up. Rent used to be rent go $18,000, $4,000. They increase my rent per month, and I was fighting with them on the top of this. Now I heard that 2 cents per gallon coming, so probably $25,000 per year, and that's why we need your help to what we can do. So I need your advice, or it's not mean. One more thing is before you guys. So that now is not mean 2 cents per gallon I'm going to charge from the customer. Basically, used to be the mobile gas station, the Exxon, they give us to us 10 cents per gallon. Now it's the open market. They don't give us any commissions. So you have to sell you follow the competitor. So if your competition is selling 10 cents below the price, and then you have to match with them, or you have to, if you want to sell the gas. But now it's not used to like I'm 10 cents gallon ExxonMobil. I can 2 cents city charging. I can charge 2 more cents for the customer. So I'm okay. I can do it. So now its time is so bad, and then basically these days, even this giant people they're selling $1.99 per gallon per gas 2 days ago. Even the cost of $2.14-15 per gallon. I'm talking about 3 days ago. So it's very tough time. So I need your help or your advice how we can survive if we start 2 cents per gallon. And I understand right now we have one gas station in the Riverwoods, and I'm sure his future is Thornton is trying to get in there one more. But he's a giant company. This is bought by BP. It's a very big company, and I have only one gas station, and to me it's very tough.
I've got to unmute myself. Just pointing at you where you are on my screen doesn't tell you. Henry, please go ahead.
Yeah, really are two questions. One, it was my impression that when you advertise a price for gas, it does not include tax. Is that correct?
It says no. We have to tax pay after that. There's a lot of tax.
Right, but what you put on your sign is without tax. Is that correct?
It's correct.
Okay, so that if there was a 2 cents a gallon tax, the sign wouldn't change. You'd be charging the same whether or not there's a tax or not tax on the sign.
Exactly.
Okay, so I don't know that it would drive people away because then I can be aware of that. My second question is, you indicate that it's going to cost you $25,000 more. I may have the number wrong because of the tax. My impression was that the person using the tax, not the gas station owner, is the one paying the tax. So why does that cost you money?
Okay, I explain you my profit or margin. So if I'm paying 25,000, this is going from our profit. Is customer is not giving extra 2 cents per gallon to us. So basically this is still is our cost. So my cost is going up because when you send 2 cents per gallon, then my cost will go up. Like for example, my gas cost $1.99. So now they go $2.01. So we're not charging from the customer 2 cents per gallon because our price is still the same, right? Right now we're selling $2.19. So I'm not gonna charge him $2.21 because you charging from me 2 cents.
So you're going to absorb the tax?
Yes.
Why can't you raise it 2 cents a gallon?
I can't do that because my competitor is selling, if it's no tax, or my other county is city no tax, and I cannot, I have to be beat with them. Otherwise, every customers go to the cross street.
I'm just out of curiosity, who's your competitor?
My competitor is all my competitor, like they are no tax right now. Okay, in the Northbrook, they are no tax right now. And Buffalo Grove going to start 2021. That's I heard. I just saw today. So Buffalo Grove going to increase 2 cents per gallon, but Deerfield, Northbrook, and the whole Dundee Road and Palatine, there are no any in Highland Park there are no tax for the 2 cents per gallon so far. But I'm not sure if future is coming tax. I'm not sure.
I'm looking on under 8, and it appears that Highland Park does have a 2 cents a gallon.
I don't think so.
Yeah, they do.
They do? Okay. But I think the Deerfield and Northbrook and Buffalo Grove still is not there, any tax. That's right?
I know Buffalo Grove passed it. I'm not sure when it was effective. Whether it's the first of the year or immediately.
No, Buffalo Grove was already, I don't know the effective date. I actually was looking at the ordinance when I drafted ours, but in the packet, there's a list of the communities that have the tax. And I believe the source for this was something from the Department of Revenue. I'll have to go back and check.
No,
I think it was the IML, I believe.
John? So, Mr. Abbott, with all due respect, I understand that you're indicating that you can't compete if we increase the price by 2 cents. But really, I don't think your gas station does compete. It has never been competitive in the marketplace. Your gas station has always been significantly higher than any of the neighboring gas stations. And I think that it's known throughout the community that your gas charges are very high. That may be because of your rent, or it may be because you have the ability to do so because of your location, which is a great location. But with all due respect, I think that if you were really trying to be competitive, you would have to lower your prices significantly. You're not competitive. You're not going to be competitive. You may be less competitive with 2 more cents, but my anecdotal, understanding is you've never been competitive.
No. I do have an answer for you. I used to be, this location is a great location and I never have a complaint. We make good money. And with the rent is low, at that time we have make sure the price is not set by me. The price set by the mobile gas station, ExxonMobil. So ExxonMobil somewhere is the very competition area, they match their price, they lose money that location. Some area there are no competition, then they sell to high prices. So we are in commission 10 cents per gallon. So that is they decided to raise the price. Some places they have like 4 gas stations each other, so they cannot make the money. Okay, that time. Now is a free market. Now ExxonMobil, after like before 2 years, he's not responsible. You can sell whatever you want to do. So now I used to be no competition. Now is my very high competition come. That's my volume going down day by day. So now is I'm trying to be with them, but I can't compare with these giant people sitting there. They call jobbers. So they open. I'm a dealer. They are jobbers, meaning they deliver the gas. We cannot compare with them because their price is 5 cents or 10 cents cheaper because they're buying the bulk, like a Speedway, Thornton, and you can call Shell, like this company running by Shell, Circle K, and they call Bucky's. So they are all jobbers came in the market. We have a very little dealers left over here because we paying rent. So we have to take it out rent from this income. But these people have to no payment because it's a big corporate. So we have to have money to able to pay my rent. Otherwise, how can I pay like $19,000 rent per month? So that's the thing is we used to be that ExxonMobil, they decided to our price. That's the reason very high price. I have another gas station used to be in Palatine. So their price is very cheaper, even low cost, because they have a Delta Sonic cross street and they are always selling cheaper gas. So they have to compare with them to matching and keep in the market. Now this my mobile has no competition. I'm talking about the 2008 to 2014. So then the mobile wants to make money here because he's losing money in the other place. So they decided, okay, this is your price today. So every 6 o'clock evening, we getting price every day in the evening. So the mobile decided that time. That's the reason my high price. A lot of people asking me this question, not only you. A lot of my customer asking me this question, why you guys high 5 cents to 10 cents? Then I explain them. I think some of the customer, our Thorngate, they call already ExxonMobil. The ExxonMobil say, this is the price we decided. They have no answer. Because now is totally different because 2014 the ExxonMobil have no liabilities. They give it to the all jobbers now, but except we have some dealers left over because we're paying rent. This is not our property.
So you're saying mobile charges a certain amount, but the mobile station or sets the price. The mobile station in Deerfield has a different rate.
Now it's changed after 2014. Mobile is no more belong to the pricing setting because they give it to the jobber. They call distributor. They call Buchanan Energy, like Bucky's. That's the property right now. This is property from Buchanan. So now no more direct deliver from ExxonMobil the gasoline after 2014.
So
sure.
I'm a little confused here.
Sure, go ahead.
So do you have, so I was wondering if perhaps you had the ability to lower the price somewhat so that perhaps more people then would be interested because you're right by the highway, and they would pass by something that was maybe less expensive, but still go to you because it was right by the highway. Are you telling me that you have control over that, or that you don't have any control over?
We have control now after 2014.
You do have control. So then I wonder if you have experimented at all with lowering the price somewhat, but then you ultimately make a greater profit because you are selling more.
We did it try either way. Even I tried to sell. If I think it's like, if you remember, like year ago, I trying to matching with the Speedway or for the big Shell or Buchanan Energy, and I talked to my company. They some help me to call rent waiver. So they did give it to me rent waiver 3 months. After they say no, we can't compare with them because they are a very giant company. And then after the 3 months, and after that they say no, you have to do your own, or you can give us the key back. That's what they told us.
So actually, what I was suggesting was not that you match it or are competing with Woodman's, because I don't think that's
Woodman is
possible.
59. How I can beat them? You know,
I was thinking somewhere in between.
that's what we are right now. It's like, you know, if you go Northbrook, they have a 249 and I'm selling 239, and then also 229, and then to compare, because we have to think some other things. And then the Woodman is, they don't care about the gas price because they're making good money in the grocery. And if I selling cheaper price and the C store, and you know, we don't have any too much items, so we, you know, like the giant people. Even like if, for example, Costco is selling 209, or right now the customer go there because they have their own sources for income. Like they go to their grocery, they don't care about how much they're making in the gas. They're just inviting customer to get the gas even the below cost. You can see the barrel price every day.
I have a question.
Yeah, Mike.
Are you going to have any incentive established when you open up the car wash? In other words, are you going to offer a discount on the gas price if you also get a wash?
I will do it. That is another goal for head. Okay, like 10 cents cheaper gas if you buy in the car wash.
Right, so that might increase your volume there and also have another sense.
I'm hoping too. That's why you guys really help us to, you know, improve the car wash. And this is my another goal to thinking to how we can survive this this gas station to increase our volume, or, and you know, and then these days another things in the top of this thing, my all customer is from corporate office and a city of Riverwood, and everybody is working from home. And you know, one of the customer, if it's taking gas every 3 days, now they're coming after 2 weeks to get the fill up the tank. If you believe it, not believe it, all my regular customers.
I believe it. I know I haven't filled up my car. I mean, every couple of weeks. I used to fill it up every 2-3 days.
Many customer, and then I'm losing day by day my sale, and then and after top of this, and I said, oh, now we have 2 cents per gallon, and like, you know, my 25,000 is gone again. So I'm already lose money. If you need my, you know, I can provide you my gas price, what is the cost coming to me, and then I can provide to you how much.
So I have a question for Bruce. I mean, if we even wanted to consider something, could we actually opt out one particular gas station? I mean, how could we treat one gas station different than every gas station in the village?
No, no, it's not. I'm not saying anything. You can't, you know, whatever you guys doing, but I'm telling you what's my problem.
I understand, but I'm asking Bruce if it's possible to rebate one particular, you know, company based upon some other standard.
I wonder if we could, rather than do that, if we could exempt the first so many thousand gallons of gasoline from the tax.
I agree.
That would probably be lawful.
Because that would apply across the board to everyone.
Right.
But it would have a bigger impact on him, because lesser of an impact on, you know, someone who's going to do such volume, high volume.
Yeah, it would be a drop in the bucket to Thornton's, but I'm not sure exactly if that's entirely kosher, Mr.
But
Clayton.
the problem also is that we're talking about the fact that the village needs revenues.
Yep.
And now we're trying to figure out how to help a resident who needs revenues, but the village needs revenues too. So we have these competing issues.
It is, Mike, but we have to be careful we don't kill the goose that's laying the golden eggs, and that's our problem. I wish we were all wise enough to have the exact answer. Yes, Mr. Clayton, you were there, and then Henry, you.
I don't know if Trustee Chamberlain is still confused, but I certainly am. I don't quite understand why the purchaser of the gasoline is not paying this 2-cent tax. Especially if it's advertised, it doesn't change the advertised price. So why isn't the purchaser paying for this tax?
Okay, technically it is the purchaser paying it, because otherwise it would be, I think, an income tax or what's the other word for it, Bruce? But
Occupation.
occupation tax, and we can't do that. So it has to technically be, as I think Bruce worded it, it's a tax on the individual consumer for the privilege of buying gasoline in Riverwoods. That's the legal definition.
But I just want to circle back on the price of the gas. The price that is on the sign is what the price is on the pump.
Yes.
And that's the price I pay. That includes all taxes. Correct?
For customer, yes.
So if there's a 2 cent a gallon tax,
Mhm.
either you're eating it, you're absorbing it, or it's on the sign. If the sign says $2.29 and we put a 2 cents a gallon tax on that, and you make the sign $2.31, that's what the customers are paying. There's no hidden fees. When you,
I agree.
right?
But 231, I cannot sell it because my company is selling 229. He doesn't care if you pay tax or not. The customer looking
No,
for
I get that part, Anil. I'm just pointing out that the sign, that there's nothing hidden. If it's whatever's on the sign is what the customer's paying.
Exactly.
Anil, are you saying that the company can force you to absorb the 2 cents?
Yes. I talked to him today because after the talking to Mr. Mayor, my sales rep came and I told him my Riverwoods Village is going to start city taxes. They're charging city tax to me. So, but they said you have to pay because I think it's IRS, the same sheet we filled out for the taxes. I think they're showing to my invoice 2 cents from the city tax. I think you know more than me for how it's calculated now. They're not absorbing.
Okay, are there any more questions from the board? If not, I need either a motion for second reading and approval, a motion to continue this to another time. But we need to take some action one way or the other. Mike, you're muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
I think on the revenue projection that Mike Clayton indicated for this year, I don't think that we're necessarily in any particular rush.
It's 5,000.
Yeah, to do this right now. I am inclined to go forward with it, to be honest with you, because I think that, ultimately when we get the new gas station, if we're going to get a gas station on the corner of Deerfield and Milwaukee, we definitely need to use that as a source of additional revenue for the village. But because there's no emergency here, I think we could still explore this potentially and give it some more thought.
One thing that would be, I'm sorry, Henry, I just want to say that one thing that would be interesting for the board is to realize that, Thornton's is proposed, but it's not a done deal. They're still in due diligence. They still have to work out an arrangement with CubeSmart. So I wanted the board, if you were going to take any decision, do so with knowledge that it's possible that Thornton's may still not arrive, or it may arrive later than we think. This could be the only station paying a tax like this for 3 years, depending on when Thornton's actually starts to open. So, we've had nice discussions. We've made some progress, but those issues haven't really been solved completely.
Well, for the first year, and actually the projection for this year, it wouldn't be there. I think that might have been collecting, but even for next year, it's not that great. But Thornton's is not talking until at the earliest next fall, possibly selling gas for, so potentially a year, it could easily be just this station. Mike Clayton?
I'll move that we impose a 2 cents a gallon municipal tax effective January 1st, 2020.
Second.
Further discussion from the board? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain.
Can you repeat how you worded that? I'm not sure if I'm voting in the affirmative or the negative.
I think the
I
spirit
don't want to
was,
vote double negative.
Okay, the motion as interpreted by the chair is for second reading and adoption of the ordinance as proposed.
no.
There's a delay of a year.
Oh, delayed a year. Sorry, Mike. Thank you for asking for clarification. So the motion is to amend the ordinance to have it start in January 2021.
No, 2022.
22.
22, sorry, yes.
Can we have some
Confused with so
discussion?
many numbers tonight, sorry, thank you.
Can we have discussion before we vote?
Yes, so
Yeah,
is there, Henry, do you take that as what you're seconding?
Yes.
Okay, discussion. Mike?
So the only discussion I would have is, I think I'm in favor of this, but I'm wondering, and I'm just throwing it out there, I'm wondering if while we were continuing to negotiate with Thornton's, would we be better off not having this ordinance passed?
No, actually it helps.
Okay, so just
It helps.
explain that.
Well,
It gives them certainty, they know where they're at, and they know how to do the projections.
right. They're not concerned about it if we demonstrate that we're not going to put them at a competitive disadvantage to Buffalo Grove. On the other hand, they're going to be asking the village for some monetary consideration. They're going to come back to us and ask for something. And it will help the village to know that they've agreed in advance to this additional stream of revenue that might come to us because
Okay.
Get it in the deal up front, so we all know where we're
I
playing.
just wanted to at least clarify that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
The mayor,
Yes, Eric? You're muted.
uh,
Okay.
Are there any other negative implications besides the proposed Thornton's advantage to just wait?
I'm not sure, could you repeat?
Is there any
your question?
negative implications to wait on and maybe, come back to this issue in a few months?
Yeah.
Well, we're working with the Thorntons and we're trying to get that deal as locked up as we can. So I would like to go forward with this now so that it's clear they need to consider it. And this puts this off long enough that we have time to consider where we're going. But I really think I would like to see this moving forward. Henry?
Yeah, if you don't include it now and defer, when you have the discussions with Thornton's and they want some money back, it's going to be hard at that point to say, okay, but now we're going to institute a tax. It really needs to be put into place now as part of the plan. And I think by delaying a year and a half, a couple things might occur. One, the low use of fuel and the low use of cars in a year and a half might change. So you may be getting people coming to fill up their cars every 2 or 3 days instead of every 2 or 3 weeks. Second of all, we can always change it if Thornton's backs out and the restaurant goes in there. There's nothing to say that this can't be modified sometime in the next year and a half. I think it should be on the books.
We can either move it up and make Mr. Abbott start paying earlier, or we can just take it off the books completely.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
my request, I hope my volume going up after when I use the car wash, I'm hoping. The second thing is if you, like some certain, I think maybe Mr. Bruce can advise you, he can help us. If you I have more than 150,000 gallon gas, so you can pay tax 2 cents per gallon. I don't mind. But after in 110, 120,000 gallon, we don't make money. And then after that, my volume go 150, you can charge 2 cents per gallon. I don't mind.
Mr. Abbott, the point is, if we take the action and the amendment is approved, we'll have a year and a half in which you can recover and we can deal with that as it gets there as necessary.
I appreciate for all of you guys for understanding.
So,
thank you so much.
any other discussion? If not, may I have a roll call then on a motion to amend the ordinance to have it effective on January 1st, 2022?
Trustee Chamberlain,
Now I'll say aye.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein,
Aye.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
Trustee Hollander,
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
And
Right,
that is
now-
ordinance 20.
Nope, not approved yet. Now that was just to amend it.
Sorry, thank you.
To the date. Now we need a motion for the ordinance as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain,
Aye.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein,
Aye.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
Trustee Hollander,
Aye.
Jamerson.
Aye.
That is ordinance 200814.
Okay, and let me say one thing. I noticed that there were some chat messages that were exchanged during the meeting. That should not occur. That is a violation of the Open Meetings Act because that was not seen by everyone necessarily. So
Can I
just
ask-
for future
oh, sorry.
reference.
Can I ask who made the motion on that one?
Mr. Clayton,
Okay, thank you.
in both cases, and seconded by Mr. Hollander in both cases. Okay, no reason to go into an executive session. There has been no major change since we discussed personnel issues at the last.
I do
It
have,
appears to be resolving, but yes.
I did have a call, and I think our counsel did call you, John, just to let the board know that counsel for the other side has been retained, and this has been led to some fruitful discussions. So I think we're making progress.
So no resolution, but it looks like it should be resolving. Mr. Clayton?
Reading for the good of the order.
Okay, anything for the good of the order? Yep.
I would, without trying to open up a hornet's nest of conversation right at the moment, I would just say that the reaction to the new electronic sign from the residents who have talked to me has been universally negative and strongly negative. This has been the strongest negative reaction I've experienced since the group home. So I would think that we should have a pretty firm plan as to how we're going to complete the training and make sure that we get away from the garish colors and so on that have been on there so far, and try to get our residents more comfortable with the sign, because I think right now it's a pretty negative reaction.
Well, right now I will tell you that we have received 6 messages at the village, 2 of which said that the cars stolen over the weekend were because the sign was there and people now know that we exist. But they have all been negative otherwise, usually saying that it was too bright. And I agree with you. We are trying to get the colors toned down. I have had some people though say that they did see the messages about Deerfield Road being closed and the photo contest. So there have been some positive, but generally it's been commenting about too bright, etc. Cheryl?
Yeah, I wanted to give you an update. So I've received both negative and actually really positive. The Branding and Education Committee met and offered a variety of suggestions. One of those saying, hey, you know, I'm not finished yet. I'm just a chrysalis. Please let me be a butterfly. But we've had some confusion with new staff not quite understanding about the training, and I was working on clarifying that today. And so I will participate in the training tomorrow so that I can have an understanding. There's 2 parts to the training. One is going to occur tomorrow, and I completely agree. At no time did any of us want to have blue, red. The digital sign is not meant to look as it looks now, and anyway, training tomorrow. But the second part, there is a concern about how to make it COVID safe. And so that's an additional question. And then I communicated with Trustee Jamerson down there, who is working with coordinating, getting the stone bases together. And part of the delay is that, and maybe, I don't know if you want to say anything, coordinating what's happening with the stone that's going in for the campus plan and at Village Hall with what's going to happen at Deerfield and Riverwoods.
Rick, did you want to say something? You seem to unmute.
Well, I was going to say something, but my internet connection is a little wonky right now. I'm working on the stone things, so I don't know what else to tell
Okay.
you.
Eric?
My only comment with the sign is I would consider just turning off the electric sign for the time being and until the village figures out exactly what they're doing. I think nothing is better than something that people don't want. I mean, it's well known that I thought it was a bad idea from the very start, because I think our residents want to be underneath the radar. But I would just turn it off until we really figure out how we're going to utilize it best.
All right, noted. Is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain,
Aye.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein,
Aye.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
Trustee Hollinger,
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Next meeting is September 1st. Everybody have a good Labor Day weekend. I think we get that in there before that. So good night, everybody.
Good night.